will see as we are going live if the dashboard does what the dashboard's supposed to do.
Of course, now the cat's gonna start.
Oh, that's fine. That's whatever. None of that's a problem. And would you like me to give you the link?
Like, all the way through dinner, and here she goes. Meow.
Meow. Would you like me to give you? Are you going to post this anywhere else, or do you want me to?
I can put it up on the Kickstarter.
Meow. Would you like me to give you? Are you going to post this? Sorry, you were saying you could post it where?
I can put it on the Kickstarter if we want to. I can do a quick update and.
Yeah, let me get you the link for that real quick. Hello, John. I'll just send. You're saying you could post it where? Slack real quick, but it sounds like everything's working. So give it a few moments, and then we'll get started for realsies since we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Because I always like to at least test things, even when Maisie and I were doing it earlier in the week. Everything was fine, and then, like, it started echoing at one point for no reason. The video cut out. It can just be a disaster.
I am going to mute those notifications.
Yeah, I had to set everything to mute right now. And hello to everybody who is going to be joining us or who is in the chat already. Heather's just posting some stuff there. We're going to start getting going here shortly. And then we will get into what is normally a Friday Ask Me Anything, but now it's a Friday sort of Ask Me Anything, and we're going to mostly focus on Tokyo
Ask
Sidekick.
me almost anything.
I let him ask me anything. My response is just like, I can't talk about that right now, if I can't talk about it.
We could tell you, but then we'd have to kill you.
No. No. Usually I give reasons like, hey, I can't talk about this for this reason. So. It's one of those dealios. Get an itch there. Hello from France. It is late in Europe. I do believe.
It is late in Europe. It is not as late here, thankfully. Which is why I couldn't make the other stream.
Can I talk about it right? I don't know what I can talk about right now. Who knows? Yeah, the other one was late. It would have been extra late for you, but late for them.
That was good, because Maisie got to jump.
Yeah, I like to include more people. Mm-hmm. Especially since we're goofing around right now, waiting for folks to come in. And then, of course, this will all be recorded later and uploaded to YouTube. So, there's that. But Heather,
finally something on YouTube I won't watch.
Finally something on YouTube you won't watch?
Yes.
I mean, I don't. I just go back and...
I don't want to watch myself.
Well, good news. You just have to listen to yourself. But for those that don't know you, Heather, let them know who you are and what you do.
I am Heather Restus, since people ask me all the time how to pronounce it. My official title is Head Maid in Chief. I am production manager. I am customer service manager. I am second in command, I guess, is kind of a good way to put it.
A very director level position, especially if we had more employees.
Yeah. Well, you know, when there's 5 employees or so, I direct them when Eric's out in the mountains. Like he is. Starbuck, please.
No, Starbucks is gonna go buck wild. That's just how it's gonna go.
There's gonna be like 1, 2, I think 3 entries of people coming because tonight is game night. So they're going downstairs to the game room, and the dog knows them but has to, make a big deal out of it every single time. So.
As far as the totem pole goes, like, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I have 2 bosses. Both you and Eric.
No, you have one boss.
Both you and Eric.
You have one boss. Eric is our boss.
That's true. I just defer to you for a lot of things.
That's a knowledge thing. I've been here forever, so I just know stuff.
You're still a
It's
boss.
I'm Tyrion Lannister. I drink and I know things.
You're still a boss.
I have not begun drinking tonight. Don't worry. So.
It's coming. But Heather does a ton, and the reason I wanted to have Heather introduce herself is because we haven't done a stream together before, and I think it's important.
I haven't. I have never streamed. I've never ever streamed. So congratulations.
Oh man, that's even better. So for those who haven't done a stream with us before, the general cadence, especially for the Friday night stream, is hang out, ask questions, talk with each other. We may not answer them right away, but they will get answered in some capacity by the end. And if I miss it, of course, I apologize. You can always let us know. We'll try to make sure we hit all the questions. But if it's something that we can't talk about, we're going to tell you that. We're going to say, hey, we can't talk about that right now. And there is, as a preface, a good chance that that's going to come up in tonight's stream because we have to actually, as part of tonight, get a lot of this feedback and sit with it, which means we don't have decisions on those things. So, with that said, Heather, if you want to take the lead on it, unless the dog is going extra nuts, as I noticed you have been muted. The big thing we're talking about is canceling the Tokyo Sidekick campaign today. I think that's the first thing that we should be talking about.
Okay. I think that was the last sentence, so I think we're good.
That's fine.
A lot of people on this Kickstarter were kind of new to us, which is great. We love meeting new people and getting new people interested in our stuff. We as a company have done, we've done 18 Kickstarters as Japanime Games. And then we had a couple with our partner companies, which are our accessories companies and a little bit more risque games. I don't want to say risque. They're just a little bit less family friendly. So we did a couple of campaigns for them. So with over 20 campaigns, we kind of get a feeling for what's working and what's not working. And a lot of times we'll make changes on the fly. Like the whole, we saw that people wanted the option to use either the cardboard standees or the acrylic standees for the expansion. So I went to Eric and Eric said, oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about that. So sometimes it's just simply something that we don't think about, that we can make changes on the fly. With this one, we know how exciting Tokyo Sidekick is. We have all loved this game since we first got to know it. We definitely knew we wanted to do it as a project. And when we didn't see the momentum that we were expecting, we knew that something was wrong. We knew that there was something that we needed to rearrange on a very base level of, whether it's the offerings or the pricing or, everything like that. We knew that we just really needed to start over from, the base over.
Yeah, reevaluating the decisions we made and
right.
Seeing why.
Right. So when we relaunch, it's going to look familiar because I'm obviously going to reuse a lot of the stuff that I worked on. But there's going to be a lot of changes that we're going to take from that feedback to reflect what the fans wanted. We're going to do as much as we can. Not everything. We can't do everything, unfortunately, but we're going to do as much as we can to bring that feedback.
I think that's an important thing to note. As Heather said, going back through, seeing what was working, what wasn't working, getting the feedback from you now, as well as through other avenues. You may have been approached by us based on, your pledge tier or comments that you've made on the campaign itself, and we've solicited you for some sort of feedback through, messaging or otherwise to be like, hey, what about X, what about Y, what about Z? Because all criticisms are something to be looked at, and as Heather said, we may not do everything because some things are it's just not gonna happen. It just fundamentally is not going to align with what the vision is or what the structure
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is financial. You know, we are here to have fun. We are here to create great games that we enjoy, that we want you guys to enjoy. But at the end of it, Eric needs to pay our checks, and we need to make money as a company. So we do need to look at the profit margins and look at what our costs are versus what we can offer. And we weren't as clear as we should have been, I think, with the difference between some of the retail pricing and some of the Kickstarter pricing.
Well, we've gotten so used to it. Like we got a lot of our things dialed into a certain capacity, and we didn't take the time to step back and be like, oh, what about like this is appealing to a broader category than we've had before.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were looking at it from our own lens of the things that we've seen in the past to be successful, and didn't account for some of the things that were brought to our attention.
Yep, for sure. And you know, this is a very different game. A lot of people who know our company know that this is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse. Obviously, it's very Japanese because you're in Tokyo, but it's not a regular deck builder. It's not our maids. It's not our beautiful girls and art and all that kind of stuff. So I think it was a little bit humbling to come off of like our Tanto Cuore campaign, which was so successful. We were like, oh yeah, okay, we've got it. We still know what we're doing. And then to have this happen and kind of go, oh, well, all right, we can't just take what we do and apply it to everything. So we needed to be when we relaunch, we need to be a little bit more clear about the differences between the Kickstarter pricing and the retailer pricing, and look at some of the pledge tiers. I think that we offered up. We've heard a lot of people say that they're looking for just the games, and unfortunately, I think a big misstep that we made was that we have always in the past kind of been secretive about our stretch goals. Mm-hmm. We like to surprise you guys. We like saying, you never know what's coming. And there are some great stretch goals in this campaign that we are really, really excited about. And we wanted to be able to surprise people, but it wasn't coming through that these were going to be available, that these were going to be part of this package, this value. So I was sitting there doing the math and I was going, boy, by the end of this, when we get all these stretch goals, they're really going to be saving a bunch of money and I can't tell them. And that's really hard. So we're going to have to decide that balance between kind of the surprise element and making it clear that there's a lot of stuff coming for Kickstarter backers, because we really do love our Kickstarter backers, because that's where these things come from. That's how this stuff happens. This comes to life.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a part of it. And again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying of like, oh yeah, the things that we've done before we thought would work here, and it looked like they didn't. So it's reevaluating in that capacity.
Yep, for sure.
Taking a moment before continuing to speak to John, referring to it as a deck builder, you feel like that is one of the problems, and think that a co-op resource management game with deck building elements would sell it better, but also like there's a lot to be considered there, at least from my perspective, to talk about like marketing, right? Like that's too many words. Like just as a sheer statement for the marketing side of it, like that's too much. It can't work, and that is part of the problem. Tokyo Sidekick is it blends a lot of mechanics that we are used to as people who play lots of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has that deck building. It does have that co-op resource management to it. Like, it's got threat evaluation. Like there was a ton going on. There's a ton to go on in the game in general to consider that all builds into it.
Mm-hmm. It's a very complex, a very challenging game. It took me several games of really dialing in how to play it. It's the mechanics are really easy. I mean, the mechanics you fall into really quickly, but the strategy of who do I play together? Who,
Yeah.
okay, I'm playing this duo and you're playing that duo. So, okay, it's best if we do it this way and we got to get rid of this first. And having to deal with all the different things, it takes a while for your brain to kind of wrap around it.
And so that's
so that we succeed.
And that's kind of part where, like, presenting a game, like, it's a fine balance between elaborating all of those things, especially for more seasoned gamers. But with all that said, like, making that digestible and easily, like, recognized is difficult, and we definitely did not do that as well as we probably could have.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's part of the admission here. Like, this is not for us to be like, we did everything right, and we're mad about it. It's more just like, yeah, like, that's totally reasonable. Like, we need to look at that stuff.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
And yeah, like, we as to, like, I'm just kind of going through the comments here for Heather. Anime Gamer Zero is like, they were surprised that it got canceled. They thought it was doing well considering global circumstances and whatnot. And as Heather said at the beginning, which you may have missed, like, go ahead, Heather.
With what? What did I say?
Talking about, like, like, our inclinations as to, like, it's not doing as well as we wanted. I was just kicking it.
Yeah. We just we didn't feel that we had presented it well enough to get people excited enough to have that momentum that was going to follow through. We felt that we would serve you guys better if we took it down for a few weeks so that we can retool it and bring it back. And I think that excitement is still going to be there, but I think it's going to be even better, which is going to, I mean, one thing that we can say is we are definitely going to lower the goal. We know for sure that we are going to lower the funding goal. We know that you guys are going to be able to reach what we need. And I think that we would rather than putting that as that high, okay, come on guys, you got to do this for us. You got to do this for us. We're going to get there. And then you guys are going to get us there anyway. And we can unlock a whole bunch of goodies along the way. We debated about it a long time. I mean, like, I didn't sleep the night before the campaign launched because I was so excited about this one. And I haven't slept a whole lot since it launched, just because I've been thinking about, okay, what's going wrong? Why are we not getting the power behind it that we usually get from our fans? We usually see funding within the first day or so. And when we didn't see that, and then we didn't see it catching up, we knew that we have to take a look at something.
No.
And it was just so much that we didn't want to try and tool it while it was open.
No.
Because I think that would make it just too confusing, and I think it'll be much better this way for us to relaunch it.
Yeah, and I think that lends into the fact, or even just the thought of, my brain just stopped, which is the worst. Like, I had the thought and just immediately went away. So while that's coming back to me, thank you, Sorensen. We're excited to have you relaunch with us as well. It's not often that we cancel a Kickstarter. I think this is the second time altogether.
This is the second time, and this is the only time that we've done it with one of our titles.
Yes. So
the decision to cancel the one previously was twofold, because we were working with a third party, and the decision was made kind of as a group to take it down. And I don't know that they've even relaunched yet. So.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what they're doing.
Keep an eye on that, hopefully.
But for those in the chat, again, please ask questions. We're going to be here for a while, but a lot of that time frame depends on you asking us stuff, talking with us. Please feel free to put your feedback in the chat as well. So even if we're not directly talking about it right now, like, we want to see that feedback so we can get it all put together. As Heather
Oh,
said,
yeah.
which leads me back to what I was going to say is, yeah, like, we want to take this time now to have a couple of weeks to keep that, like, excitement that you all have and not stretch it out 3 months down the road, but, like, make sure we come right back to it. Take this feedback, find what we can actually do or what, like, is feasible with the project. Implement that stuff in a very, in the best way possible, so making it look good, making it look polished, especially if we have to add things or change things for whatever reason, like, making those adjustments, I think, is an important part of the turnaround.
Yeah, we definitely want to know what will make it better, what will make it more exciting, what will, what were you looking for that we weren't doing.
Yeah, I'd be curious what you got, Anime Gamer, from what Dice Tower had to say about it, because the biggest criticism I saw from it when I saw it specifically was just that Yusuke Emi drew inspiration from a lot of Western comics. That was the biggest takeaway I got from it. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on that. As to Sorensen, the best place to find out when the relaunch happens, if you haven't joined our mailing list, that's the best way. Honestly, we send out at least one mailer, if not more, about all of these things all the time. Otherwise, Facebook and Twitter are really great resources.
And obviously, we will announce it to the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the date. We could give it out.
Yeah, I mean, we can. I think some people may not have backed it, so they're not going to get the updates because we canceled.
Right.
And so.
Right. Yeah, we will plaster it everywhere. We encourage people that if you don't want to be on a mailing list, because I know sometimes I get overloaded with mailers. We do post it on social media. We post it on our own personal Facebook pages. We put it. Well, we pretty much put it everywhere. Yeah.
We put it everywhere we possibly can. And then for you, Heather, this is a question that I'm going to kick. Well, a statement/question I'm going to kick towards you. Alice was here for our first stream from Mexico, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which was really exciting because of the shipping that we were able to offer to Mexico.
Yep.
But, and we talked about this a little bit earlier while we were getting ready for the stream. Like, many people didn't see a clear reason as to why they should back the campaign. They didn't know if it was a discounted price or they couldn't see the stretch goals, which again we talked about. We typically keep ours like a little bit hidden behind the veil until we start hitting those points, because we want to lean more towards the not disappointment side of not getting to goals over the excitement push. Like, it's that fine line between the two. That's not the exact reason.
We want to focus on the project itself.
Yeah.
And we don't want to distract too much with the stretch goals, but I mean, once we hit that funding, then it gets into the really exciting part with, what can we get to next? What are we going to unlock next?
Yeah, which is what we've always done. But it is something that, we may break that mold for this one. We don't know yet. We're gonna look at that and see what's best for us.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out a balance between, we don't want to spoil the surprises, but we want to be able for you guys to be to be able to understand why, it would be good for you to back the Kickstarter versus waiting, which I totally understand waiting. I mean, I get it. There are certain games that I will wait until it comes to my friendly local, and I will pick it up there. And then there are some certain games that fall into a category for me where, I had a game that I was backing. They canceled it. They retooled it. They came back. And I immediately pledged at the top level again because I knew I wanted everything, and I wanted to support them, and I wanted to be one of the first ones to get it because I was excited to play it. So I mean, there's always that aspect of Kickstarter. Our Kickstarter backers always receive it first. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have had some problems where, for whatever reason, our shipment got delayed or the fulfillment got pushed back, especially this year, unfortunately. our last fulfillment got stopped at, it seemed like every border, every single border it tried to go through, they were stopping it and they were searching it, and they were, you know, because of the COVID. And Adam's just bringing my copy of Tokyo Sidekick here in case we want to show anything off. And then we were, you know, we were having to apologize to people because it was getting into stores before it was getting to our backers, and we hate that. I don't think that we can't really post how much we hate that.
No.
We know you hate it, and we hate it too. We absolutely hate having to do that. But for whatever reason, whether it's that the container that's containing the backer stuff gets stopped, and the distributor from the US that for whatever reason this foreign friendly local is buying from manages to get theirs and send it, and somehow it gets there first because they're only sending a case or something like that. So that gets through a lot faster than our container containing all the stuff. So we try to make it as much as possible that our backers get it first, get it as early as possible. I can say that we do have a couple of exclusives that are specifically for the Kickstarter. We do have a few things that are going to be available to order separately, but are going to be put into the tiers as freebies.
Which is pretty standard for us. Like, we typically do that.
Yep. There are 4 stretch goals that we are very, very, very excited about. I think that's one of the reasons why Eric was so excited to get the stretch goals unlocked. Which Jackson knows what I'm talking about, but I don't want to ruin it.
Maisie and I teased about it on the last stream.
But basically it's adding more to the game, which again, that's going to be available to other people, but it's going to be, you know, a $20 purchase for anyone else, but we're giving it to our Kickstarter backers for free.
Yeah.
And that's for everyone. That's for anyone who picks up a game. They're going to get it for free. So, I mean, this is tough because...
I was saying, I think that's a level of transparency that we're talking about here, too, where it's like, you may not have seen where the discounts were, and some people really want all of the discounts clearly plastered in front of them, which is not something we've done before. So, like, looking at that, knowing that, like, we don't like to clutter the... I'm kind of going further by a question or a statement that was asked in the chat. We don't clutter the Kickstarter with a bunch of tiers that don't solve anything.
Yeah.
So, for example, and again, this isn't a final, but a lot of people are like, I just want the base game with the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we made that a tier, it would have ended up being the same price when we presented it that way, right? Like, I'm not being too weird about that one. Like, it doesn't make sense to.
Yeah,
be super
one of the
upset
things, one of the things that it's hard to put across, and I understand it. I understand the frustration, is that when I do the shipping calculations. So when I know the basics of the games, I know the size of the box, I know the weight, I know. Approximately what everything is going to be. I can go in and I can do all of our estimations of how much things are going to cost us. Yeah. And from there, from the base, I start with obviously the base tiers. I figured out, how much it's going to cost us to ship one game. And then I figured out what it was going to cost us to ship one game plus one set of accessories. And then what it was going to cost us to ship a whole box full of everything. And from there, what I need to do is I need to look at how the shipping is going to change based on each add-on.
Yep.
So one of the good things about this campaign is I heard some people complaining about the box size, which we can't really do a whole lot about. I mean, this game is just big. It's huge. And when I look at the stuff that's in the box, I didn't understand it because the Japanese one, the insert is not great. So everything's just kind of thrown in there. But ours is, you know, everything you could actually play out of the box if you wanted to. Everything stays organized. But even just the board itself is humongous. So there's really no making the box smaller. But part of the problem that I have when I'm doing the shipping calculations is if I'm shipping a base game and then I add an expansion to it, it probably isn't going to change the shipping much. However, we have had in the past people who order 5 games and 5 expansions. So that adding 5 expansions is going to change it significantly. So I can't say, okay, if you only get 1 expansion, it's not going to cost you anything extra. I need to say for every expansion you get, it's going to cost you an extra $5. So a pledge tier we might be able to do, because then I can say, okay, we know that it's going to be just 1 game and 1 expansion.
No, I was just bringing it up because like the shipping would be basically the same regardless.
It would essentially. We also we charge what we are going to pay, basically. We don't inflate our costs. For people in the rest of the world, we also have to consider customs fees, which we take care of as much as we can. We pay VAT for people, so that has to be built in there. We also have the freight of getting it from our manufacturer to the fulfillment centers.
Yeah.
So those are all things that need to go into the shipping that are really hard to get across without being really wordy in the campaign itself. So we do try and keep the costs down as much as we can. And I do understand that that's a deterrent to a lot of people. So that's why we do try and offer things to our Kickstarter backers.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can be a little bit more open when we relaunch with what you guys are actually going to get for free, what you're going to get included in your Kickstarter pledge. Even if you just get, I know for a fact that there's at least one thing that nobody else will be able to get. It doesn't change the game, thankfully, but it's kind of like a goodie. The Kickstarter, we had already announced that all the Kickstarter games are going to get the comic for free, which other people will be able to purchase, but they have to purchase rather than getting it for free. So I think that will make a big difference when people see, yes, we do have some things for you guys that are going to be not necessarily Kickstarter exclusives, but they're going to be included in your pledge. So you're going to get more bang for your buck, I think.
And it is exclusive in the sense of we will be more clear in that, oh, you are getting this for free when someone else would have had to pay for this later, or you're getting it at this discount when it would be, this much normally. So,
right. I also don't know if the plan is to release that to game stores.
Yeah, I don't either. But, I mean, in general, it's the things of like, hey.
Right. So that one thing that we think is really going to be a big thing, we may just keep it Japanime exclusive, and you can purchase it from us at like a show or through our website later. I don't know if we're going to put it into retail. So that may be another thing that, not only are you getting it for free, but you probably can't get it through your games.
Yeah, and as John says here, like all the videos at Info, like that's something I'm gonna part the veil on a little bit, is that shipping, like we were just talking about, made things difficult. So when I get pre-production copies to send to reviewers ahead of time, I usually know when they're arriving. But some things went wrong. And so that's part of what, like, people got review copies, and were given, like, I was told certain time frames for certain things with people I had spoke to. Again, this is not a blanket statement to all of our reviewers. This is just a statement to, like, you know, in general. Some people told me they would have things at a certain point, and they didn't. And that's what happens when things get taken out of our hands and get put into a third party, is sometimes they don't necessarily deliver on the time frame that they promise either. And at that point, we had already committed to our time frame. It's like, well, here I am, hoping that these, and that's it. A lot of the reviewers were phenomenal. Like, some of their copies got stuck in customs, and so they got, like, it got stuck way longer than they expected. You know, things like that. Where it's just like, well, there's nothing we could do about that either. That's not their fault. That's not our fault. That's just shipping. So.
Yeah, everything is just taking so much longer right now. I mean, we had pins. Our 2020 Japanime Games pins should be arriving at the warehouse next week. So, yeah, approximately more than halfway through 2020, they're finally going to hit the warehouse. And I designed that sucker last November. So, yeah, just the state of the world and COVID just really messed with everything. And, you know, we do appreciate that so many of the reviewers are working with us as quickly as they are.
Yeah.
But we literally put these things into their hands like last week, I think.
As soon as they possibly can get there.
Yeah.
So Joseph asks a question of, what did support from previous backers of your Kickstarter titles look like? Having some kind of promotional material that nods to other games, like Bessem, which we did in this one, so Big Eye Small Mouth, may help in drawing that crowd. Like, that's a totally reasonable statement. And as we kind of said at the beginning, like, Tanto overwhelmed us in terms of support. It had a $25,000 goal.
Yeah.
Which we met within the first, like, forever. But if you look at it, it was funded with over 1,000% funding. So we got 10 times what we asked for it. Mm-hmm. Which was, again, very humbling and very surprising.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, that was overwhelming. That was crazy.
And we put a lot, we put a lot of work into Tanto, don't get me wrong, but we put a ton of work into this Kickstarter. I mean, at least for me personally, like, I did 3 to 4 times as much marketing work than I did on other projects. And so to see those two things comparably and be like, I put so much more into this one, and for it to not do anywhere near as much, like, that's a rough position to be in.
Yeah, it's as humbling as Tanto was, it's a totally different kind of humbling to watch what's going on with Tokyo Sidekick. Because we have been so excited and we have done so much work. And we really were expecting this was going to be a slam dunk. This was going to be really easy. Let's put it out there. We'll see how it does. We made sure that we had, extra stretch goals because we thought that we were just going to blow right through them. And that's kind of how we knew that something was going wrong. Because we said, this really should be an easy one. This should be a walk in the park. And it wasn't. It was really slogging. And we knew that we were doing something wrong. There was something not working on this one, not clicking correctly. So that was why we made the decision as quickly as we did, so that we could retool it as quickly as possible, and bring it right back. And well, it's still fresh in everyone's mind, and we've got all this feedback. We've gotten some really good feedback, and some of it's not so good. Some of it is just stuff that we just can't do, unfortunately. But we've heard a lot of the same thing, multiple times from people. So that's stuff that obviously we're paying attention to.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do our best. We need to wait until our boss is out of the mountains, because he is off taking some well-deserved time.
Yeah.
to go and enjoy nature. But he gave us yeah,
Directives.
he kind of gave us the green light to go ahead and get started putting it back together, gathering the feedback, making our suggestions on how we should adjust things. And he'll come home and he'll essentially make some final decisions and say, okay, yes, we're going to do this. No, we're not going to do that. And thankfully, since we have done as much work as we already have, I don't have as big a mountain to climb to get it set back up to come back. So that's good. But in the meantime, we're working on another very exciting Kickstarter that I can't wait to be able to bring out.
Yeah.
That one is very personal to me. So I'm watching that one go together essentially from scratch. I'm watching the art come in and stuff like that. So I'm very excited about that one. So we're kind of doing a parallel thing, putting one back together while we're building another one.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of these Kickstarters have been because we don't have shows this year. Is the other factor.
Yeah. That gives us a lot of time to develop them, to put the campaigns together, and to put them out there as quickly as we did. So yeah, normally we wouldn't have quite this many right on top of each other. Goodness gracious, because I'd be a crazy person.
It's a weird year.
Crazier than I am. So
three things for that. Some statements, and then a question.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I'm reading here, which I'm going to talk about in a second, because I actually have, whenever miniatures come up, my hackles get raised. Not because I'm mad, but I want to talk about miniatures, because there's a lot to talk about there. But the first statement is that, again, we're so thankful that all of you are here with us to talk about these things. The question, which is not Tokyo Sidekick related, but things in general, can we talk about Besom and Besom fulfillment? Is that something we could talk about?
Absolutely, I can.
Okay, so Anime Gamers wanted to know, are the physical copies getting hung up in customs right now? And it might be a different answer, but like,
no, actually they're not, and I will be perfectly upfront with it. We did get some advanced copies of BESM, and unfortunately, out of the 6 that we received, one of them was actually misprinted. It was misbound. Big chunks of pages were in the wrong order. If I actually learned a new term this week. If you look at the end of a book where it's bound, you'll see that each little grouping of paper, it's not all one big chunk of paper. It's usually multiple little groups of paper that are all folded together and then bound. Those little chunks are called signatures or SIGs. And apparently a couple of the SIGs had gotten reversed. So I actually have a picture of one of the core books that goes from section 5 back to section 3. And then about 20 pages later, it went back into the right order. So we actually had the printer opening all of the books and spot checking them and making sure that everything is in order so that we're not sending out books to people and finding out later that everything was out of order. So we also had a problem with the numbered books. The limited edition books are numbered, and we asked that they be labeled on the outside. And what unfortunately what happened was the printer shrink wrapped the books and had no way of knowing what the number inside was. So when he put the labels on the boxes, they were out of order. So like we opened up box number 6, which should have been book number 6, and it was like 936 or something like that. So they had to redo all those. So we had some slight technical difficulties, but the bookings were done today. Everything is packed back up. Everything is in the container. Should be going on the ship next week, which means usually it takes about 4 weeks. We have all the paperwork. Because this is smaller I say smaller because books obviously take up less space. So it's only a few pallets versus a container. So that actually goes through customs faster. So as soon as I have the tracking information for the ship, that will be going up on the campaign, because I know that people love to watch the ship come across the water, and I know I check on it daily just to make sure it's, in the right place at the right time. And we anticipate that it should be here, and hopefully it should be through customs and with our warehouse in the US probably around this time next month. So we should hopefully be shipping not long after we relaunch the Kickstarter, actually, the Tokyo Sidekick Kickstarter. As soon as I have those firm dates and I know that they're going to go on the water, then we should have some good timing. The internationals are booked as well. Australia is actually going by air, so those should be there fairly shortly. And the other internationals are going to Germany. So those have to cross a couple of borders, but it has shorter to go, obviously, from, Asia to Europe is a little shorter than Asia to the United States. So hopefully by the end of August, I should have that good news that everything is being, packed up and sent on to everybody. Because of Tokyo Sidekick, I have not started the refunds on the express shipping, if anyone out there paid for it, but I do have all the details, so I may take a couple of hours like this weekend and do the refunds, just so that I don't have anything else keeping me from doing it, and that way it's done. So I wish I had better news, because I know I've been a huge ESM fan forever. I don't have my book. I'm anxious too. I would love to have it because I'm waiting to run a campaign. So I don't have better news, but that is the news. So
I just wanted to make sure it was something we could talk about and what we could talk about with it.
Yeah, no, it's it was very disturbing to see the poor book be all in the wrong order.
Yeah, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh no. Because at first I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like with the first picture, I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. When it was the numbers not lining up, I'm doing other stuff. I'm not paying attention to that. But the book, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. So we immediately sent an email off to the printer, and we were like, there's a problem, and here it is. And open the books right now and make sure that this is not actually a problem. And I think they said that they went through the whole run, and they did find like 4 more that were wrong, but otherwise everything is just fine. So I don't know what went wrong where, but yeah, that was a moment of panic. Oh God, please tell me I don't have to destroy like 9,000 books and have them reprinted. Oh, please.
Yes. Oh man, that would have been its own.
I don't even want to think about it.
Are you ready for a Jackson tirade?
Oh, please do. Tirade away.
It won't be that bad. So for those that don't know, my first job in the gaming industry was working for a miniatures company. So the moment anybody talks to me about miniatures prices, I get like real angry and worked up, because there's so much involved with miniatures. And I appreciate it being brought up, but those price points that you are seeing are done at massive losses. Like, not the case for every company, but when you look at actual, like, engineering, mold requirements, production, everything that goes into actually making a miniature, if we were to make 40 unique miniatures for this game, though they would not cost $40. That is...
Mm-mm.
And it could. It is 100% economy of scale at work in those regards there. But it's also just... Beyond that, how many miniatures are being produced in those molds at a time? So, like, I looked at the Ultra Quest just to be like, okay, 80 miniatures, that's a lot. And I was like, oh, there's numbers and numbers of the same miniature being printed in the same capacity. So, like, that's part of it, right? They're not making 80 unique miniatures. They're making, you know, um, you know, 20, 40 miniatures, and then
Right.
repeats of those. So like that's
Multiple.
the first part of it. The second part's materials. Like different materials cost different price points, obviously. You're typically going to run into plastics, metals, and resins. Plastic being the cheapest, with metal and resin usually being the next order. But again, it depends on who's doing what and how it's being done, and also size. There's a lot involved there. With that said, miniatures there's so much work that goes into miniatures. Not to say that it would never be something that we wouldn't look at. I don't think, like, I can't say what the future's going to hold. Heather could be like, no. And I'll be like, all right, cool, we'll never talk about this again. But there's a lot to it. And to compare miniatures to acrylic standees, I believe, is a false equivalency in that they are filling the same role of character representation in the same way that a cardboard cutout might. But when comparing them in terms of price points, they're pretty different. And I want to know where I can get $1 miniatures of that quality, because I will lose all of my money. I will spend all of my money buying miniatures and painting miniatures because I love doing that. So
Yeah, see, that's the thing for me is I stink at painting miniatures.
yeah,
I
that's the
have
hobby
one
part.
painted army. I have one. My Warhammer army is painted. They are beautiful because I didn't touch them. I have a friend who does absolutely amazing paint work. I paid him to paint my army. I have never regretted it for a second. It was worth every penny, and I will never, ever, ever paint a miniature because I don't want to do that to my poor miniatures. And I mean, looking at these and seeing these characters that have so many colors and so much shading and, are so detailed. That's actually an interesting story of, we were making the pin set. And we tried to choose 5 characters that we thought were different enough, but represented the game well. And we chose 5 characters, and to do an acrylic, or not an acrylic, an enamel pin with metal lining, you have to bring the color palettes down so low. You have to use so few colors in order to make them affordable that we actually had to eliminate one because it was too detailed. And the others, we actually had to do, their faces are actually screen printed on enamel rather than poured, just because they're so detailed. And as much as I love the pins, they don't represent the character well. Where these acrylics are amazing. I mean, they're sharp. It's just like watching a superhero bounce off of a page and stand up on our board. I opened them up when I first got them, and they each come individually coated, and you have to peel it off to make sure that they don't scratch. So I took it out and I went, oh, these are not great. And then I peeled it off, and as I was peeling it off, I was going, oh my God, look at these. They're amazing. And they are just beautiful. And I wish I had a better camera because the pictures that I took just don't do them justice. They're so beautiful. And to me is I would rather have the acrylics that represent the character so much better than a miniature. I love my miniatures, but
we've worked. I was gonna say we've worked with miniatures before. We have unpainted miniatures in Cowboy Bebop, but again, there's only 5 of them, and that's still a $50 game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's a lot there, and yeah, I understand, Rick. Like, there's a lot of projects back. There's a lot of miniatures out there. Miniatures are the big hot thing for games, but it's just not the approach we take, and we never advertised it as having miniatures. And obviously, some people are not going to enjoy that fact, but in terms of price points, like, we believe that our price point is competitive and honestly cheaper than what miniatures would cost, especially given what we can conceivably do. So,
Yeah. Not to mention that some people are already unhappy with how big the box is, and 40 miniatures are not going to fit in this box, whereas 40 acrylic standees do. But I mean, and that's why we didn't make the acrylics the default.
yeah.
That's why we made it so that, you can get the game, you can get this game and play it out of the box. You don't have to buy these acrylics. So, and that was a point that I guess we kind of overlooked. I don't think I even realized it until people started talking about it, and I actually typed it into the campaign that they came with acrylics. So I feel really silly, but
I mean, sometimes we're handed a thing and we're like, all right, cool, it'll be done, and then it's like,
yeah,
it goes.
You don't think about it, but yeah. So I understood that because once I realized what was going on, and I went back to Maisie and I said, we really didn't put cardboard in the expansion. We only did acrylics because people who have the base game aren't going to want to play with 3 acrylics and the rest cardboard. Yeah. So that was one of those things that we kind of we made a left turn while we were still live with the campaign.
Yeah, that's one of those things we could correct on the fly. As John said, like, they sent a message about the photos. Like, yeah, like, sometimes we don't have the best, as you said, Heather, like, picture for things, but we are going to try to highlight more of the components and more of the things that are coming in the box, and showcase some of those things more specifically than doing the spreads that we did, because it sounded like we were like, I do really want to see this character card next to this, to this.
Yeah.
I said miniature, but like, it's because my brain is there now. But next to the Stantee, I want to see the character card next to the game board and see how big that looks. Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the reviewers. Unfortunately, I didn't get my advanced copy until last week either. So I was frantically downstairs in my game room 2 nights ago, setting up the game and going, okay, I'm going to play around with myself and taking pictures as I went along, and then I would get back upstairs and look at them on my screen and I'd go, oh, I gotta put this out there. So so that's why we wanted to leave a few weeks in between, because this will give us a chance to be able to take those pictures and maybe make a playthrough video. I know my family has asked already to play again, so it comes out. They play, they're downstairs playing an RPG tonight. They'll clean up, and then Tokyo Sidekick will go out, and it'll be out there all weekend. Just because we go down there and we'll play, and okay, who are we going to beat up with today? So.
Yeah. It's a month till relaunch, correct? Like a month away-ish?
Yeah, August 18th, I believe, was the day.
So a little bit less than a month. We didn't talk about the date specifically. We were going to leave that closer to the end, and I was going to put it in the description when we were done.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. Leading from that, too, there will be opportunities to play Tokyo Sidekick on Tabletopia with me, specifically.
I'll play too. I want to play.
Okay, well, we can make that happen, too.
Yes.
At least with me, and maybe with Heather. Or maybe separately at Gen Con. So at Gen Con, we're going to be having a couple of demos of Cowboy Bebop, as well as Tanto and Tokyo Sidekick. Those are going to be the 3 that we're showing at Gen Con this year. Just because of people we have available and time. And because of the virtual models, it's weird. It's weird how some things are being done. So we're doing the best we can with it. And so people say, like, not caring about miniatures, wanting a really good... we don't know how Maisie is handling it yet. Maisie is asleep.
Maisie is asleep, yes.
Yeah.
She and I talked a little bit earlier. She was hoping that we wouldn't have to postpone and suspend it for a little while, but she understands why. She's kind of the same way. She really thought that this was going to be really big right out of the gate. this is really her baby. So there may be a little bit of cross the water hand holding when Maisie wakes up. But you know, it gives her a chance to make sure that we're that closer to production. You know, we essentially are, the only thing that we're really working on is the insert, just because our the file that we sent to our manufacturer was not quite clear on how things were going to be set up. So I can actually get it out and show, but so I think Maisie will be okay. But she'll be disappointed, but I think she'll be okay. So I actually.
But again, please, while Heather's finding that thing real quick, give us your feedback, send us your questions at the chat.
Yes.
We will be sending out emails. We always send out an email on our mailer and through Kickstarter. And we usually do a mailer like before the campaign goes live and then the day it goes live. And then we do follow-up emails, which I hate spamming people with emails, but it's one of those like, hey, maybe you didn't open the first one. Maybe you didn't open the second one. But by the end, we can say, well, if you didn't see it, I don't know what to tell you. Are you deleting your emails?
It happens with Pledge Manager. We send out multiple warnings, you know, we're about to close the Pledge Manager, and inevitably we get like a dozen people who say, I got none of those. Well, I don't know what to tell you because we sent them. So but I mean, this is the insert, and I can't see what my screen looks like.
Well, you don't have your camera on the screen.
What?
I don't know if your camera's feeding into something else, but you haven't had your camera.
Why didn't you tell me, Jackson?
You usually don't have your camera on.
You're terrible. Okay.
You just don't have it on.
So here we go. Here, I'll tip it down so that you can see. Okay. So as they're sliding all over the place.
Everything's going all over the place.
Yeah, so obviously these are all of the cardboard minis, which are pretty hefty in their own right. But basically what it is there's a slot here that at the moment are holding all my minis. My acrylics will not fit in there. There's too many of them. But what was supposed to happen is that these are actually supposed to be slots, so that when you have your minis, you can put them in like this.
Standees. You're doing it too now. Now you're stuck on the mini train.
Yes, your standees, so that you can leave the standees on their bases and be able to slip them in. So they're essentially supposed to be like eye-shaped slots, so that all the standees can go along. So there's some over here, and then there's supposed to go some up here, and then these are for tokens and stuff. We give you a bunch of baggies just in case. And then
tons of boards.
This is your power board. Right now these are pre-production, so these are kind of flimsy, so they'll be a little bit more sturdy. Which is why this is so deep. It looks like it's too deep, but these are going to be thick. Well, so these are your player boards.
That's part of pre-production stuff too. Like we talked about this in the last stream, is like oftentimes there's a back and forth that's like, hey,
yes,
you know.
Yeah. So these are your player boards. You get 4 of these in 4 different colors. Yeah. And then you've got your sidekick cards, which are oversized, so that they're easier to read. And then
I was gonna say, when you move that too, like show off the villain cards.
The what?
The villain.
The villain cards, yes. So this is here. I have a handful of cardboard standees. That's why. So these are the sidekick cards. These are the superhero cards. So you can see all of our sidekicks. And then we have our superheroes.
And as for Richard, the cardboard minis are what's coming in the base game because not everybody wants acrylics. Acrylics are a premium upgrade, so there wouldn't be a way for people to save money by not offering the cardboard if they only got acrylic, because that's what the base game would be being printed with. And so the acrylics being an add-on, it doesn't quite work.
It wouldn't really change the cost because there's not really.
It would be a blip if it was possible.
Because of the way the manufacturing works, you can't really do that. So, then underneath you'll see your energy cards. These are all the stands for the cardboard standees. These are the incident cards over here.
Yeah. It's a reasonable thought, Richard. I just wanted to point out that's why it's not feasible. Go ahead and continue, Heather.
And then these here. I can take this up. So here's our bad guys. These are the fun guys.
And they're also those cards are gigantic as well.
Yes, these are oversized as well. The original had normal standard size poker cards, but we decided to go oversized. So you'll see that there's two different kinds of enemy cards. These are villains. These are super villains. Yep. So you start with your villains. Those go on top, and then you move on to your super villains. You have to defeat 2 villains and 2 super villains. So you'll see some of our villains here.
Before that menace shows up.
We have Yasha the Witch.
And while you're showing things off, to answer the questions where can they find out more information about the characters? Well, good news for you. Tons of that information is in the rulebook, which we did post. So if you go and check out the Kickstarter page and find the rulebook, the rulebook itself is about 16 pages of actual rules.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many pages are in the rulebook specifically.
Yeah, it's about half and half with rules and then the story.
I knew it was a lot, but it's 16 pages of rules, and to be fair, I would say 12 of those are actual rules. Maybe 11.
It's mostly, a lot of it is because we give the rules and then we kind of give, here's what a typical turn would be like. So, and then we have some superheroes as well, or some supervillains as well.
Yeah.
We have cool guy.
John wanted to let you know that they love your shirt.
Oh, thank you. I am a lovely indeed. And then we have our 3 menaces. These are who we have so far. So it's my favorite is King Kaiju.
You weren't the only person who asked Dana. There are other people who asked where they could find out about the characters, and so.
Yes.
Yeah, King Kaiju.
So yes, we have 3 menaces at the moment. We talked a little bit about it in the campaign through comments. There are, I believe they're working on the 5th base game in Japan. And there are multiple expansions. So we're starting with this, depending on how things go and what the interest level is and what our schedule is. A lot of times, unfortunately, there are games that we would love to do and we just can't fit them in our schedule right now. So,
that's part of why we focused on Akihabara Web as the first expansion that we wanted to.
Yeah. I do actually have a copy of Dead at the Asylum. I would love to do it, and more than likely we will do it. We're just not going to do it right now. We juggle a lot of our different titles and our different the different lines that we do. So sometimes we'll be working on a Tanto game, sometimes we'll be working on a Kamigami game, sometimes we'll be working on a Tokyo Sidekick game. So it's not necessarily that we don't want to do them or we're not going to do them. Sometimes it's just it's not in the schedule at the moment.
Yeah, and it's cost too.
Yes,
there is no illusion that Dead on the Asylum is a bigger expansion. It would cost more. That's a fact. But 2 questions for you, Heather. Well, 1 question for you and then a thing we could talk about. what are the card sizes? Because they are very different card sizes.
The two card sizes?
If I remember, unless they are standard card sizes. I don't remember.
So our oversized cards are 126 by 88, and those are these. If you have Kamigami, or if you have ever played Kamigami, it's the same size as our God cards for
cool.
Kamigami. And then all the other cards, so the energy cards, the incidents cards, and stuff like that, they are smaller. I don't have that measurement memorized because this is a new size for us. But yes, they are unusually sized, which is why we offered the sleeve set, which is enough to sleeve both sizes in the base game, with some extras, whether you just want to keep them as extras or whether you want to sleeve Akihabara. Because it will be able to sleeve Akihabara as well.
And for Leo, no, Dead at the Asylum is not coming with this one. We decided to do Akihabara Web first.
Yeah. Yeah, we went with a slightly smaller one first. But I am guessing that we would probably do Dead in the Asylum before too long.
Which leads into things like the expansions add scenarios, basically. Like that's a lot of what they do, is they add a very specific style of gameplay.
Basically, Akihabara Web is called a scenario expansion. So it just gives you a few scenario cards. It gives you a couple of extra characters. Where Dead on the Asylum, I'm guessing, is probably going to be a slightly higher price point because there's more to it. There's more components to it. But I'm guessing as long as this is at all successful, we will probably be working on that one before too long.
And I believe those numbers are right, John. I believe there are 5 scenario packs and 3 full-sized expansions for the Japanese version.
Right. That sounds right. Yep.
Unless Yusuke Ame put something out in the last week that I didn't see. Those were the last numbers I saw.
Maisie is the one that would know for sure because she's the expert, but that sounds right.
That's what I remember seeing on the website, like John did. I was like, I think it's 5 and 3, and so.
Yep.
But this is usually the time where we start sort of like winding down a little bit. Max has a question which we'll get to, but this is sort of the time of ask questions, give us your feedback, let us know what you would like to see, what was putting you on the fence about backing. Again, we may not take all of these suggestions, but we are going to look at all of them at least to say, okay, cool, like this is something we can work with.
Yeah.
This is something we can do.
We'll definitely be compiling all the suggestions so that we have them available to us, and we'll be deciding what we can do and what we can't do, and how we can make it more exciting.
And so this will be sort of our wrap-up as we go. We'll answer questions and we'll kind of wind down. But Maxwell asks, and I'll ask you this first, Heather, before I give my answer, what's the most fun mechanic you've had, like that you found or enjoyed through your playthroughs of Tokyo Sidekick so far?
I am really partial to Melty Sweet and Smoothie Bear. Mm-hmm. I like that Smoothie Bear is able to have essentially reach. Mm-hmm. He can help with something in either direction from him. He doesn't necessarily need to be in that spot, which is cool. Who else have I played?
Well, also just like gameplay mechanics, like the things that you've enjoyed the most about it. Because the thing I've enjoyed most is actually like a mechanical thing.
I am not really a co-op player. I have played co-op games. I really enjoy Cowboy Bebop. Mm-hmm. But the reason for that is because it's a co-op game where you get to screw with the other players. So
it's co-op.
So the fact that this one is purely co-op and you really are working together, and that I enjoy it so much is really kind of odd for me. I'm definitely a competitive competitive kind of gamer. I lose a lot, believe me. I am not a winning competitor, but I just love to be competitive. And I think just being able to put my head together with the other duos and feeling like we are actually a team. We're a team of superheroes. I mean, how often do you get to pretend that, yeah, I'm saving the world. I'm out there, I'm doing it. And okay, so you go do, you take care of this and I'll take care of this. And that's really cool. I like being able to kind of look at the big picture and think ahead and say, okay, so we got to deal with this now, and we got to deal with this now, and just kind of be smart about it, be very strategic about it.
And so John brings up part of, like, one of the two favorite things for me is that you can get rid of bad cards at any time. Like,
you can.
The 7 basic actions that every player gets. It feels daunting at first, especially you're like, okay, there's a lot of things there. And you're like, oh, okay, no, like it's very straightforward. It's very intuitive. And then being able to ditch those cards, but also being able to have the opportunity to draw more cards. Again, the actions feel very basic, but there's a lot to be done with them that I enjoy. And the big thing for me is we have a lot of deck builders in our catalog. This is my, we have so many deck builders in our catalog phase.
Yeah.
But this one, with the hand management component of being able to discard cards that you don't want at the end of your turn, being able to plan for the next turn. Not everybody's going through their decks at the same pace. And so I personally really enjoy that, because it's like, all right, cool. Like, that is a factor, especially when you're adding new cards to your deck. Like, the pace at which you're burning through cards has an effect on that. So, that's the big one to me.
Yeah, I'm not. I was telling you, Jackson, the other day, the more complicated things get, the less I want to play them, which is why I'm kind of burnt out on World of Warcraft, because it's getting a little crazy. But I never felt that with this. I love that I can do as many actions as I want to, as long as I can pay for them. And I don't have to go, okay, what is more important? The only thing I have to worry about is, okay, what is more important that I pay for? I don't run out of time. I don't run out of energy. I don't run out of, I can only move once, or I can only, move and attack, or I can do whatever I want. I can, as long as I can pay for it, I can do whatever I want.
And that escalation too, like, as your heroes and like your pool of cards grows, as you add new, bigger power cards, or you start unlocking your character's special abilities, it feels like we are obviously marketing to My Hero Academia fans. Do not get me wrong. Like, there is no illusion that if you love My Hero Academia that you will not, you will love this game. Like, there's no question about it. But just the ramp up, like, every hero and sidekick duo feels like they grow over the course of the game, and it feels really good.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's simple. Like, every hero has the same number of options in front of them. Like, no one has more than others. But they all feel really good.
Yeah, I love that you can mix and match your superheroes and your sidekicks. You don't always have to play the same two together. If you find something that you're really happy with, and you want to keep playing it, you can. But if you decide, it's not really working for me. I love the superhero, but the sidekick doesn't really work well with it. You can try another sidekick. And that makes it different. That makes it, the replayability is really great, and it's can be sometimes hard to get my family to the table to play a game, but this one, they're like actively asking me, but I want to try this, I want to try this superhero, I want to try this superhero with this sidekick, and you were playing that, I want to try that, can I try that one next? And that that's why I think that the part of the disconnect was that we weren't expressing that feeling to the backers well enough.
Yep.
Of how exciting and how really much fun this game is. I use I have a family of gamers. My whole family are gamers. All of our friends are gamers. So we do. Gloomhaven is out on the table all the time. They're down there playing an RPG right now. We blew God knows how much money at Gen Cons before. So we definitely game, but it's usually an argument. Well, I want to play my game. No, I want to play my game. I want to play my game. This one, they have actively asked to play multiple times. So that to me is a big judge of this is something really good. This is something really fun. And even there's a couple of guys who come over on Monday nights and they usually play Gloomhaven. And I jokingly I was actually cleaning up Tokyo Sidekick so that they could put Gloomhaven down. And I jokingly say, okay, so next week you guys are going to play this, right? And they looked at it and they said, well, what is it? And I explained it real quick and they went, oh yeah, we're playing that next week. So I've been told that next Monday I am going to be downstairs and, playing rules lawyer for them in case they need someone to help them out.
I think we didn't see any more questions really while we were going through that, so I think that's gonna be kind of where we wind up for today. So,
okay,
Heather, parting thoughts before we leave.
Just thank you guys so much for supporting us in this first outing, and for being excited about a relaunch, and for coming to talk to us tonight. Because we can make our best guesses at what to do to fix it, but it's really you guys who are going to help us figure out what you guys need to really enjoy this campaign. I want that excitement. I want that eagerness to get up in the morning and come down and see what people are saying about the game, and but I mean, that's mostly it. It's just really thank you. I feel like I say thank you all the time in the updates. But yeah, it's just you guys mean a lot to us.
No. So with that, all you lovely people, goodbye for now, and we'll see ya. We'll see you later.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye.
Bye.